Why is it that who we work with really matters? You decided that you really want to get started in real estate investing, or you want to expand in what you're doing. But where do you start? How do you ramp up? Today's guest is Dennis Alipore. Dennis is a top-selling agent with Berkshire Hathaway in Southern California out of Los Angeles. Dennis is going to share with us why it is that who we work with to find great deals is so critical. And he's going to share with us his top 5 most important things to look for when choosing someone to help source deals. But before we get started, Dennis, what do we need to know about you?
Thanks, Tom. I've been in the real estate business for about 12 years. I transitioned into this business when I was a scientist prior. So, I really love real estate. I think to build wealth and to be able to have the ability to grow a portfolio for passive income, there's no other way than real estate. So it was really important for me to become an expert in this field. So not only can I help myself, my family, my friends, and now all of my colleagues and clients that I work with. Real estate's a big game, especially in Los Angeles. We're talking about big dollars here. So, the agent that you work with, it really makes a huge difference. They've said that the agent can make a difference between 0 to 10%, depending on who you work with. So there's so much that happens in the background. There's so many different steps that happens that it's critical having somebody on your team that, is a hustler, is persistent, and is super organized in their systems to find good deals. Good deals don't just happen. You got to find them. You have to negotiate for them. You have to analyze the deal. You have to understand, what your exit strategy is going to be, and couple that with, what is going to make sense when you purchase. The negotiations of a deal are going to be super critical. And then going through the escrow process, there's a lot of due diligence. Just because it makes sense on paper, if the property's got geo issues or it's got foundation issues, there's just a lot of things that can come up that can really cost you big once you finish an escrow if you don't do your diligence up front. So doing these 2 type of things up front will save you a bunch of time and make sure you can find the best deal.
Absolutely. So Dennis, one of the main reasons that I invited you onto this episode is you and I had worked on a project in Southern California. And what a perfect example of the things that it takes, the amount of work it can potentially take to get a deal closed. This one was one of the toughest deals that we've ever had to close. And the amount of time and the amount of effort and everything that you and your team did to get that project closed, it just, there's no way it would have happened without that the drive and the tenacity and the sticking to it to get the job done that you provided. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that particular project, but that was an interesting one.
Yeah, that was one of the most complicated deals I've ever done. Worked on it for 4 years. I think 3 of them with you when you came on. So, it's every deal is going to have issues. Every deal's problems are going to come up. You're going to have to overcome them. So this deal had many issues, and it had it throughout the process. So we just kind of took each issue as it came and maximized. And this is kind of how it shows, there's so many steps from A to Z to finish that you got to make sure every step is done properly, because these steps compound. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that every step is done at the best of its ability so that you can make sure that the end result is at its best. Just typical situation. Things come up and we have to overcome them. We have all the resources, and you were great to work with. We had a great, contractor, John. He was fantastic. So it's a team effort. You got to surround yourself with the right people to make sure you execute appropriately.
So let's go through your list of five items. What is the first thing on your list to look for?
I think you got to work with an agent that has a drive and a hustle. It's not, this is not a passive business where you can just sit and deals come across your desk. You got to go look for them. So you got to have somebody that's really excited about it, wants to make the deal, to us, we love the deal. The deal is what drives us. We love making a deal. So I think hustle is going to be a really critical factor when choosing somebody to work with. Also being persistent and organized. Just like yourself, you've got a ton of other things going on. So you want to make sure that when an agent comes to you with a deal, it's been mathematically organized, it makes sense, and all you have to do is look at a quick one-page sheet and see if this makes sense for you. So, to be able to also analyze the deal in a very analytical way, break down the numbers so it's very, very clear what needs to be done. I think that's going to be critical.
Okay, so hustling, making sure you get out there, get the work done, somebody who's really going to make it happen. That was one. Number two was being organized, correct?
Yeah, organization is really critical. I mean, again, this is a big process, and we're not only going after one deal, we're going after many deals at once. So to be organized, to know, what deals are where in the process, how we can get the best deal, that's going to be important. Process and system is very important to us.
Okay, and then analyzing. So what does it, let's just say somebody is getting started or they already are doing deals, but they come to you and they want to get into more deals. What do you like to, from an analysis perspective, what do you like to have as a communication process with an investor that comes in that's asking you to help them out?
I first need to understand their objectives. Is this going to be a long-term play or is it a short-term play? Are we looking to buy and rehab an apartment building and hold it and rent it? Or are we looking to purchase a single-family home, do a complete rehab, and then sell it within a year? That's going to be an important question. Also, where is the financing coming from? A lot of these investors that I've worked with, a lot of them love to use other people's money, but that comes at a great cost. They're paying points up front for hard money loans, and they're paying 8 to 10% on these loans. So the cost of money also is a big factor. So to know the duration in which you can hold so that the numbers make sense. If your interest is going to eat up all of your profit, this may not be the best deal. But if you've got a good low interest rate that you can get on a loan, or even if you're coming in cash, there's different ways that we can work that to make sure it makes sense. Each person's a little bit different, but to understand that individual's goals is going to be critical.
Okay, great. And then number four, so we had hustle, being organized, and being able to analyze, and number four?
Four, I think negotiations. I know a lot of people think they're great negotiators, and what they like to do is start really, really low on an ask price and then hope to meet in the middle. I tell you, more times than not, that backfires. That usually offends the seller, causes them to basically break down and not even talk to you. So it's really important to understand context of the seller. It's important to understand context of the property. So once you understand context, you can negotiate in a way where our side gets an amazing deal, but the selling side also walks away feeling like they got treated fairly and they got what they wanted. It's really important to understand what is it that the seller wants to maximize the negotiations on the buy side.
Okay, great. And then the last of the five?
I think escrow and the due diligence process, negotiating, finding the deal, getting into escrow and having a contract, that's all great. But there's a lot of homework we still need to do. We have to inspect the property. There may be geological issues. There may be soil or foundation issues, mold, water intrusion issues. So to be able to understand what it takes, have the professionals to come in and really analyze that property to make sure we're not buying something that's going to cost us an additional $500,000 because of all these other issues. I see that that's one of the biggest problems with investors. They'll jump into a deal without doing their full due diligence. And when they thought it was going to cost them $500,000 to do a rehab, now it's costing them $1 million because they've got, geo issues, foundation issues. Not only does that take you more time, that just takes away your profit. And now you may be looking at a loss. So that can all be mitigated with the proper due diligence process in escrow with the right resources.
One of the things that's really important in this business, especially I can only imagine in your end of it, is communication. Not only once a property is listed or once you're working with someone, but how do you stay in touch with people that either have shown interest of possibly working with you? And where I'm going with this is, if I'm an investor and I go to a lot of, let's say, real estate meetings and meetups, that type of thing where I'm making a lot of connections.
Right.
In order to be able to really make those connections work, there needs to be a regular communication with those people. And how do you do that in a way where it's not pestering or overpowering and bringing value? And that's one side. That's the extreme one way. The other extreme is you get a business card and it gets put in your phone or in your desk, whatever, and there it sits and you never connect with them again. What is your process for staying in close contact with people?
So we have a very sophisticated CRM system. So again, it goes back, each person's different. Each person's needs are different and what they're looking for is different. So first we understand what they're looking for. Based on what they're looking for, then we put them into our database and it's all really organized again. I mean, again, there's so many clients, so many properties. There has to be a central system that really organizes these in a fashion so that if you need easy contact, you can send the right emails to the right groups. Our philosophy is we never call just to call, and we never send emails just to send emails. Everything we want to do is of value. So if you're looking for a particular type of fourplex, you're going to only get calls from us when there's a fourplex that makes sense or we know something that's coming on the market. On a somewhat passive level, we have a monthly newsletter that we email out to everybody. And that newsletter is broken down, talks about the market. It breaks down the Los Angeles market, but really even the Southern California market. And it also breaks down advice. So I have an advice section just for buyers. What should you be doing? What should you be looking for? And the same thing for sellers. What is the environment looking like? What's inventory doing? What's interest rates doing? How is that going to affect your bottom line? So every month we write our own piece where each section has an advice section. And we find that people really like that. We like to push information out to people that's valuable and relevant, but not on a daily basis. Our newsletter goes out once a month, and it has a lot of great resources. So when people kind of see that, they see our off-market opportunities, they can contact us. And again, when we have something we think of a value, we'll contact them directly.
Just curious, do you work with wholesalers? Do they reach out to you? Do they, is there a connection that you work with wholesalers usually or not?
Yeah, there are some people that, they're just having a tough time selling their property for whatever reason. And so they keep discounting, but discounting isn't always the right way to sell a property. To be able to find the positives of a property and to be able to position that property to show an investor how you can add value has a lot more value than continuously lowering the price. So a lot of these wholesalers will come to us, they'll price a property at 2.5, 2.4 and not get anything. And then we'll come in, we'll restage a little bit, we'll change a couple things, we'll go down to the city, figure out what can be done. We'll list it at 2.7, 2.8, and a lot of times with our sales tactic and marketing strategy, we'll sell it faster and for more. But the wholesale market has been a little bit slower, but it's still out there. Okay,
so let's talk just a bit about staging. What is your take on staging properties when they're put up for sale?
I think an empty house just doesn't do the listing justice. Buyers, I would say at least 90% of buyers cannot walk into a space and understand the space without furniture there. That's just anecdotal information I've seen, statistical information that many staging companies and the NRA has shown. Staging goes a long way. It really makes a difference. But on the other side, staging can be really expensive. And sometimes the cost of the staging can be equal to going out to just buying the furniture yourself. And I see that a lot. But there's a value in a staging company coming in. They have a designer. They do everything in one day. They've already picked everything out. They make sure everything looks good. And then when you're done, they come and take it out, and it's very simple. So although the cost is high, I believe every property needs to be staged. I mean, our goal is to make the property look as beautiful as it can so that we can sell it for the max amount of money. If we're selling a $4 million house and the staging costs $20,000, that's a good investment because I can easily fluctuate 50 to 100,000 on negotiations and selling presentation just because the house looks better. And buyers at the residential side specifically, they buy on emotion. So when they come into a nicely done with beautiful flowers and rugs and couches and just everything looks beautiful, that makes a huge difference, and they're willing to pay a premium for that. So staging, always, that's a no-brainer for me.
No, you're working in pretty high-end property values, probably in the range of 500,000 being maybe very low and maybe what, 8 or 10 million high end, or what? Let me ask you, what is the range? And then a follow-up question on that is, listeners that are in markets where the selling price may be 80,000 or 100,000, do you have any experience or advice on that?
So, working in Brentwood, our average sales price is around 2 million. And that goes all the way up to, 100 million plus with some of these mega mansions. We don't have too much experience with houses that are around 80,000 typically. I would say 600, 500,000 is probably the lowest, and then it goes all the way up. I would assume that at a house at 80,000 is going to be similar. It's, again, you're going to have a buyer come in. They're going to you want them to fall in love with the property. So having it staged properly, painted nice, good curb appeal, that's all going to be the same. I think that's going to be the same from as low as 80,000 all the way to, 250 million. Make the house look as good as it can. That would be how I would respond to that.
Okay. Now, every business has its challenges, and every business has its quirks. I'm going to ask you, if you were to pick out one thing that irritates the heck out of you when a prospective buyer comes in and comes to visit you or wants to work with you, or a certain client, you pick the client, but what's something that really irritates you in your business?
So are you asking from respect to like a client that wants to work with us?
Yeah, just so that our listeners can get a feel for what it's like on your side of the equation as a listing agent or a selling agent. Yeah.
Understood. You can buy your own house by yourself, just like you can do your own taxes on TurboTax, just like you can do your own contracts on LegalZoom. So there's opportunities for people to do it their way. But when you come to a professional, you come to a professional for their knowledge, their expertise, and their guidance. So for us to best help you, you really need to let us help you. So when we let you know, hey, as a buyer, it's really important that you get your money straight. Before we go look at properties, you make sure that your down payment is ready. You know where it's going to come from. You've already spoken to a lender. You know how much you're approved for. These aren't things that you want to do later and after the fact. So, do your due diligence. Be prepared so that when you speak with us and you want to work with us, listen to our guidance. We've done this a lot of times. We're here to guide you. That's part of the reason you pay us. So trust us. And I think that's going to be one of the most important things when you look for an agent. You really have to trust them, because I would say 80% of what that agent does is behind closed doors that you're never going to know about. That's the truth. You're never going to know what this agent is talking about your property. You're never going to know how the negotiations are really going unless you're there. So to be able to trust someone is going to be really, really important. The skills, negotiations, all of those things are very important for the practical purposes of it, but there's also the trust factor that has to be there. So if you found an agent that you trust and you think that they know what they're doing, listen to them. Let their guide.
Okay, and what would you say would be some questions, typical good questions to ask an agent before deciding if you want to work with them or not? How do you select a good agent?
It's a good question. The number one thing is, I think testimonials are really important. So you want someone that has shown that they've done this before, and you want to talk to people or at least see a video or some sort of testimonial so that you can kind of know what you can expect. That's number one. Number two is just when you meet with them, from your core, when you speak to someone, when you're talking to someone, are they authentic? Are they trying to sell you? Are they trying to, is there, they're not being totally truthful? Are they kind of keeping things to the side? That's going to be really important as well. What's your gut feeling about that person? Because again, this person is your representative, and we're talking about big money here. This is not, 200,000, we're talking big dollars. So it's really important that this person is an expert in their field, has a passion for what they're doing, and that you can trust them basically with the keys to your house. They're going to be coming in your house. They're going to be doing a lot of things that are personal to you. They're invading your privacy. So it's got to be someone that you really feel comfortable with. And the communication. I think communication is really an important factor. Ask them, what is your communication style? For us, on a weekly basis, every Monday, as you remember when our listing was happening, every Monday you would get a very detailed update. It was, for me, it's important that you've got your own job. You've got your own stresses, you've got your family, you've got Mother's Day, a bunch of stuff going on. To add another huge aspect, which is real estate and the process of real estate, my goal is to take that burden off of you, let us handle everything, and then give you the summary and the synopsis and the choices of what to do. You don't need to spend hours and hours a week looking over what's been going on. Every week, we're going to send you a very detailed update. So how is that agent going to communicate with you? And then you even have an opportunity to negotiate with that agent, because commissions are negotiable. So the way that agent's going to negotiate for their commission that feeds their family is probably the same way they're going to negotiate for you when the doors are closed and you've got a big deal. So if you've got an agent that's willing to do it for nothing, how hard are they going to fight for you to get you the best price? So you kind of get a glimpse of all of these little things when you meet with them. Just be kind of aware and present.
Okay, and you shared a little bit of information, some statistics on part-time, full-time, that type of thing. What's your take on that?
Getting into real estate and being a real estate agent is really easy. It's actually probably too easy. There's the barrier to entry allows really anybody to get a real estate license. So there's a lot of people out there that really don't know what to do. They don't have they don't like their job. They try to go into real estate. Or someone that has a full-time or a part-time job and wants some extra income, they get into real estate. So those guys are transactional. They can do the transaction, but are they going to be the best for the job? I would say probably 95% of the deals that are done by 5% of the agents. So 95% of these agents, are probably doing 3-4 deals max per year. And that's kind of the average in Los Angeles. And most of them aren't doing any deals. So everybody's got a cousin, everybody's got a brother, everybody's got a somebody that does real estate on the side. But this is such a big investment. I'm shocked that people would use somebody that does this on the side. This is a full-time job. There's a lot that goes into it. We've got a big team that kind of divides and conquers. I'm just shocked that anybody would use somebody that kind of does this part-time and isn't a true expert in the field.
Great. And so if someone would like to get a hold of you, reach out to, maybe they have questions for you, what's a good way for them to reach you? Or if they want to get on maybe your newsletter?
Email is always great. You can always find good content about us on our website, which is the www.adalportgroup.com. Facebook is another great place. We love Facebook. I believe that the majority of advertising is going to go almost exclusively to online, and Facebook's going to have a huge part in that. Print media is kind of on its way out. So reach out to us, email dennis@dennisadalport.com. That's a great way. Even just Googling our name, you'll be pretty quick to find us. And any way you want to contact us, happy to help, happy to answer any questions. Okay,
great. And we're going to put your information on the show notes. So if anybody wants to refer to that. Also, I just want to mention to anybody listening that we do have an app now for the Bank Free Blueprint podcast. So if you go to iTunes or wherever you get your apps and just check it out and look for the Bank Free Blueprint podcast app, and you can get every one of our episodes. I think we're at about 53, 54 episodes now. So
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What amazing content. I mean, your content for your investors is so great. You know, content is king now. So to be able to have the right information to make the right decisions, I just love your podcast, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for being on the show. But one thing I want to ask you before we close out here is you get the last word on this podcast, right? So
Okay.
what's the one thing that people need to remember when deciding who to work with to find the deals that they're looking for?
What do they, you're looking for a partner. You know, your real estate agent is your partner. If you win, they win. So if you find a great deal, the real estate agent wins as well. So you always want to think of partner, you know, someone that you can work with that, again, is a hustler, is authentic, does what they say, and is willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen, but in a legal and moral way. You know, that's really important, to do the things the right way. I heard a quote the other day that I thought was great. You know, the best way to do something is the right way, because that's the cheapest way. Because at the end of the day, if you take shortcuts, or if you cheat, or if you don't do your due diligence, that'll cost you down the road. So as much as you may think, up front you're getting a deal, you know, the best way is to always do it the right way. So partner up with someone that you know is going to do it the right way, is a hustler, can communicate with you, and understands your goals, and is a good listener. And that's how they can understand your goals, by being a good listener.